So here's a huge question. Is religion the root of all our problems, or could it actually be the solution? That's the powerful idea we're diving into today. We're looking at a document called One Common Faith, and it argues that the key to a peaceful world isn't to ditch religion, but to see it in a completely new light. Let's dig in.
Right from the start, the source material does not pull any punches. It opens with this really stark warning from Bahá'u'lláh, making it clear that the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't some dusty philosophical debate. It's about finding a way to put out a fire that threatens to consume all of us.
Okay, so if religious hatred is the fire, what's the sickness underneath it all? Let's take a look at the diagnosis. Section 1, a world in crisis.
Just look at this contrast, it's pretty stunning. On one side, you have the shiny promise of the 20th century, this idea that a future built on materialism and secularism would solve everything. You know, better technology, more education, less religion, and boom, a happier world. But then, on the other side, you see the reality the source calls a disheartening failure. A world split wide open by inequality, with families breaking down and old conflicts roaring back to life. The argument here is simple. A world without a spiritual compass is a world that has totally lost its way.
This quote really captures the tragedy of the situation. It says, our world is sick, so sick it's getting close to hopeless. But here's the real kicker. The true physician, the one who has the cure, is being blocked from helping. We're literally preventing our own healing. And that, of course, raises a really important question. Which brings us to Section 2, religion's great paradox. I mean, if our biggest problems are spiritual, why isn't religion the obvious answer? Why does it so often feel like it's part of the problem, not the solution? And here's the puzzle that I think a lot of us feel in our own lives. People everywhere are searching for meaning, right? We're hungry for something more than just the day-to-day. And yet so many of us are walking away from the very religious institutions that were supposed to provide that meaning. So what is going on? Well, this slide kind of lays out the big roadblocks. For a lot of people, traditional faiths just feel out of sync. They can struggle to answer modern questions about science or gender equality. In a world where we're all connected, claims of being the one and only way don't really sit right. And honestly, all the infighting and rigid rules can feel a lot more divisive than divine. For many, these are the deal breakers. So, if the old maps aren't working anymore, is there a new one? This is where we get to the most radical idea in this whole explainer. Section 3, the idea of one religion. Now, this idea is a total game changer. The source calls it progressive revelation. And you can think of it like this. Humanity is in a giant classroom and God is the teacher. Each of the great religions is like a new grade level, with lessons perfectly designed for that stage of our development. So it's not a bunch of competing schools. It's one long, continuous education for all of us. And this timeline just illustrates that idea perfectly. It's like a curriculum for the human race. You have Abraham laying the foundation with the covenant, Moses bringing the law, Buddha teaching enlightenment, Jesus revealing a new kind of love, and Muhammad showing us submission. Each one builds on what came before, delivering exactly what humanity needed at that time. And according to the source, Baha'u'lláh is the latest of these teachers, bringing the message of unity that our modern global world desperately needs. It's all one story, just unfolding chapter by chapter. Okay, but what about all the contradictions? You know, the different rules and rituals between religions. This slide gives us the key. Think of religion like a tree. The roots and the trunk, those are the eternal truths. Core spiritual ideas like loving your neighbor or seeking justice, they never change. But the leaves and the branches, those are the transitory laws, the social rules and practices that are meant for a specific time and place. So the differences we see aren't contradictions. They're just adaptations for the changing seasons of history. So that's the big idea, but what does it actually mean for us, right here, right now? Let's look at how this concept of one unfolding faith gives us a blueprint for today. Section 4, a faith for modernity. So what does this new chapter of religion look like in the real world? Well, the source argues that these ideas that we often think of as just modern social progress are actually spiritual commands for our time. I mean, look at this list. The equality of women and men, the oneness of the entire human race, the harmony between science and religion. These aren't just presented as nice ideas. They're framed as divine principles, essential for the healing of our planet. This analogy is just so powerful. If the world is a single human body, you can't just treat a broken arm and expect a sick heart to get better. All of our problems, racism, poverty, war, environmental collapse, they're all connected. They're symptoms of the same underlying illness. And that means the cure has to treat the whole body, all at once.
And if there's one single remedy for a body that's sick with division, what could it possibly be? Well, that brings us to our final section. Section 5, the ultimate remedy, unity. This is really the core diagnosis. The source is absolutely clear. The universal disease plaguing humanity is disunity. Everything else is just a symptom, and the only cure is unity. But we're not talking about the kind of unity you get from a political treaty or a business deal. No, this is something much, much deeper, a condition of the human spirit.
So how do we get to that spiritual state? This quote makes an incredible claim. It says that the principles for our age, oneness, equality, justice, they aren't just good suggestions. They are the actual tools, the most potent instruments designed specifically to forge that deep spiritual unity. The message is pretty clear. You can't legislate real unity. It has to come from a spiritual source.
Okay, but does any of this actually work in the real world? The source says yes and points to a living, breathing experiment, the global Bahá'í community. It's basically presented as a test case, a kind of laboratory where these principles are being put into practice on a worldwide scale. And the claim is pretty amazing, that this is the most diverse yet unified community on Earth. And this chart really helps visualize that incredible diversity. We are talking about people from virtually every single ethnic, cultural, social, and religious background you can possibly imagine, all coming together as one. And here's the key. What unites them isn't a shared culture or a single leader. It's a shared belief in these spiritual principles. It's presented as living proof that unity in diversity isn't just a nice slogan. It can be a practical reality.
And so we end up right back where we started, with a question that turns a common belief on its head. We're so often told that to find peace, we need to move past religion. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if the real path to a united world isn't about abandoning faith, but about finally understanding it as one common story for all of humanity? It's a profound thought, and one that might just change how you see everything.